He wants to give a little talk about what's happening now.
Sure. Okay, well, thank you very much for having me. Yesterday, Frank texted me and asked if I would be available to talk for you all for Veterans Day. And I didn't know if I could make it. I was in Seattle, standing in at a job fair for Navy nuclear power officers. There was a job fair to help those officers coming out of the service pick up positions. So there were folks from Amazon and Blue Origin and Northrop Grumman and all the companies you can think of trying to poach these officers to come work for them. But the organizers have had me there yesterday, and for the past 3 years, they've invited me up to Seattle to present grad school as a good option for these officers coming out of the service. That, you know, they have their GI Bill. That's what I'm using right now at Stanford, and it's been a wonderful opportunity for me. So I wanted to share that with my fellow vets coming out of the service, so that they, you know, take some time to build up their education more, take that opportunity, and think about what they want to do before jumping in with both feet into their next career. So thank you, Frank, for inviting me. Thank you all for having me. I couldn't commit right away because I was juggling a few things. I landed at San Jose only about 90 minutes ago, so I wasn't sure that I would make it. But when I hit the tarmac, I texted Frank, and he was ready with his phone to let me know it was still on. So I'm really happy to have shown up. So Frank suggested that I talk a little bit about Veterans Day history, as it started as Armistice Day, the closing of World War I on November 11th. But, you know, as almost the youngest person in the room, I didn't think that giving you all a history lesson would make much sense. And so I really appreciate hearing about the history of Hersch's story. And so I'll stick to a little bit of my story and reflect on how that makes me think about Veterans Day. So the bottom line up front for my talk is that ever since I've joined the service, the Navy has afforded me opportunities that I never could have had access to if I didn't sign up. And so the Navy has given me those opportunities, the privileges that I will tell you about. And it's kind of funny, on Veterans Day, people always thank me for my service, but I really feel like it should be the other way around. That I feel like I'm in debt for the opportunities that I'm currently trying to take advantage of. And so I need to say thank you to the service and to you all for paying your taxes, and, you know, for voting for folks that have decided to put the programs in place that I've signed up for. So I feel like it's my duty to continue to live up to the potential that I've been offered, and to serve my community and to continue to serve in recognition of all the privilege that I've been given. So I'll tell you a little bit about those opportunities. So I was born in 1988, August 12th, 1988 in Chicago. That's where I grew up. I went to Niles West High School on the north side of the city, and wrestled. I was, working towards being captain of the team, and all I was thinking about at that time was sports, and wasn't very academically focused at all. But my uncle, who was an enlisted Vietnam War vet for the Navy, he had been encouraging me all my life to think about the service, to think about the Navy, and his daughter had signed up for a Navy commission as a surface warfare officer, and it was doing, she was doing really well with it. She actually just retired as a commander in the Navy. And so when I applied to college, I was accepted to the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign into the physics department. And I also applied for an ROTC scholarship that had accepted me and to pay for my tuition and provide a little bit of stipend on the side so that I could cover my living expenses. And so that was the first real opportunity that the service granted me. And at the time, I wasn't nearly as appreciative or really understood the gift that scholarship was for me. But I worked hard, and I got good grades and studied through college. And then at the end of my time there, most students were choosing between being a submariner in aviation like Hersch, or to go into the Marine Corps, or to be a surface warfare officer. Those were the four published options for ROT service members. But they actually picked me for something different. They said, you know, John, you are studying physics, you've got pretty good grades. We'd like to fast forward you to be an instructor at Navy Nuclear Power School in Charleston, South Carolina. And that's typically a job that folks go out and they serve on submarines and aircraft carriers, and then they come back with that operational experience before they teach in the classroom. But they wanted me to take my theoretical knowledge fresh from the classroom in Illinois and go directly to their classrooms in South Carolina and keep the math and the physics and the theory fresh down at the power school. So that was 2011. I graduated and moved to South Carolina with my commission and started teaching math and physics to the enlisted folks. And that's a really special job, and the nuclear Navy is a real special place. All of our submarines and aircraft carriers are nuclear powered. Instead of being diesel powered like most boats, it's a nuclear power that lasts anywhere from 10 to 20 years. It's really like a magical substance. And the job that we're training these enlisted members to do, we give them about a year and a half of training, and they're shoved into a position that in the rest of the world requires a college degree in order to do. So we really expect a lot out of these 18 and 19-year-olds that we pick up fresh out of high school. We had high expectations for them, and they, really rose to the challenge. About that time, I took advantage of another opportunity that the Navy granted service members, and that's the VA loan. It's a real estate loan that is provided to all service members in the U.S. military to buy a house for no down payment. And folks, especially living in California, understand that real estate has gotten pretty expensive. And so for a younger guy like me and my colleagues, without that VA loan, guaranteeing the loan and allowing me to get into that house without a down payment, it would have been impossible for people like me and my age to own a home. But there I was, I think about 23 years old at that point, buying a house in downtown Charleston, and the feeling of ownership from having that property, not just like renting a place, but having a place to call my own, having that ownership and responsibility meant a lot for me. And it's also meant a lot for my financial security. Moving out to California, I hung on to the property, and it got me into local politics because now I felt really invested into what's going on, and so I've continued to vote from afar to what's going on in Charleston local politics. There's a lot of tough decisions to be made, especially with rising sea levels and figuring out to make the investments. And okay, I could talk about that for a long time. So anyway, so the VA loan is another outstanding opportunity that I wouldn't have had if I didn't join the service. So thanks for that. So then I got moved upstairs from teaching the enlisted folks to teaching the officers coming to Power School. And so I was selected to teach reactor dynamics. and core characteristics, which is one of the more theoretical classes at Power School. It's taking what you learn from the basic physics, the nuclear physics of how the atoms work, and actually taking that to the way that the reaction rate changes in the core. And it's very non-intuitive. The behavior is exponential and hard to build an intuition for. So I was charged with imbuing our officers with that knowledge so that they could operate safely. And then for my final year at Power School, 4 years total, I was selected for director of math physics at the Power School. So I had 7 instructors working for me, teaching 300 students at a time, and I had charge to steer the curriculum, within a band. But I took that ownership to improve the curriculum, to make it better for the students of the future, and having that directorship and that management experience, that supervisory role, was another experience that not many people my age can put on their resume, can talk about a management role. But here I was at 24 years old, being given this opportunity that folks outside the service don't get to take advantage of. Let's see what I've got here. Okay, so wrapping up in Charleston, I came to the end of my 4 years, my service requirement for having taken the ROT scholarship. It was a 4-year service requirement, so I got to the end of that point and decided to apply to PhD programs. And I applied to Berkeley and to Stanford and to University of Michigan, and to my humble surprise, I got into every program. And I believe that if it wasn't for the Navy, there's no way that I possibly could have gotten into any of those programs. Just graduating with a simple physics degree doesn't necessarily mean a lot, but the experience of the Navy is really a differentiating characteristic that I was able to write down strongly in my application. And I feel like these universities, well, they really wanted to have me in their classrooms, providing that perspective. So thank you for the Navy for getting me into grad school. And then they also provided me a GI Bill, which is a 36-month scholarship that is full tuition with stipend, that is zip code adjusted, really important for California, and gave me the financial opportunity to come to grad school instead of being hat in hand like most students that are looking for their professors to sponsor them in their degree. That's how it works for most students. Some are lucky enough to pick up scholarships from the federal government or for elsewhere, but most students, wrap it up? Okay, thank you, sorry. So the GI Bill has been fantastic. And then I also joined the Navy Reserve. And the opportunities there have been incredible, working on unmanned underwater vessels and on a taxonomy for artificial intelligence. And I just got selected for Lieutenant Commander, which I appreciate. And so what I want to leave you with is that the Navy has set me up for whatever career I could possibly dream up for. And I thank you and everybody in this country for setting me up with that opportunity. I can seek money or status with what I've got, but I really feel like my job is to make good on the investment that the country has made in me and that you all have made in me. My service obligation is technically over, but I feel like I really have a lifetime to make up for, and I'm going to try to do that the best I can moving forward. I read a little bit about what you all do in the Rotary Club, investing in polio vaccinations, and you're one of the #1 funders of scholarships in the world. And I want to let you know that that scholarship money really means the world to the folks that you put up for education. That education really sets folks up for their future, and please continue to do that. And I'll do my best to continue to contribute and inspire those around me. So thank you very much.
No, that's great. Thank you. We just, we're not ending yet. We have a beautiful cake here for Hersch. I hope he comes up and looks at it before we cut it up. And then Ken is going to wrap up our celebration of Hersch on Veterans Day.
You wanted to say something, brother?
What's that?
He wants to say something.
We already gave you the opportunity.
I just want to say this. Now, I know all you people probably may have been griping about making contributions and so forth to the VA. But I want you to know that I would never be in the position I am right now had it not been for the VA. And we thank you very much from the bottom of our hearts. Yep. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Herschel. Thank you, Herschel. Thank you for everyone for speaking. That was great. You want to carry the cake over to him?
Sure.
So don't leave. We have cake. Even though you already had ice cream, you're not gonna have cake also, are you?
Just say whatever you want. Oh.
So Herschel, everybody signed this dollar bill. Are you familiar with these? So my wife's grandfather, they would sign these when they went on flights. So when they went on flights, did you guys do that?
Yeah, we'll do that later.
I'm proud of you, my God. Are they still in the Navy?
Yeah, we're both still in. Fairly follow
It's always up, you guys.
Absolutely,
Anybody in our damn boat expected to float all the time.
So everybody signed this. So it's,
Oh, short order.
do you know what it is? Yeah?
You ought to see mine.
How many do you have? I have to about 20 of them in my garage.
I'll put that right in with your
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Anybody know the short order?
you want to tell us? Tell us about it.
You know how that, everybody sit down and have a drink and all of a sudden they say short snorter. And if you didn't have a short snorter, you had to pay. So everybody collected these things all day. You carried them with you all the time.
That's good. Wow. Because God knows who.
So I'm gonna remember that the next time I have a drink with you.
You're gonna have to pay.
Okay, also in honor of Veterans Day, and honoring you, we want to thank you for being an outstanding Rotarian and patriot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right.
I'm gonna correct that because you guys are the patriots. Take care.
Oh, you were pretty big. Oh, yeah. Totally.
You're making out today, Herschel. Figure that.
No.
You want a to-go box for that? You want a to-go box?
I think I'll join nail with my tool, join nail with
Yeah, my tool.
You want a to-go box?